Yo, what up guys, this is your boy Legendary here, and today people, we're going to be doing a discussion video talking about Rush Duels, what I think about it, the good, the bad, and yeah, just my overall thoughts over it. So let's get started. Alright, so first off, before I get started, I kind of want to talk about the rules of Rush Duels in case if you guys don't know or haven't gotten a chance to watch Sevens or whatever, or you just want a refresher. Rush Duels is kind of very similar to Speed Duels, but with also very different rules. So just like Speed Duels, it has 3 zones, 3 monster zones, and 3 spell and trap card zones. I believe it has an extra deck, and I have no idea if it has a field spell zone or not, but it probably does. We just haven't seen them yet in the show. But so yeah, you start with 3 monster zones and 3 spell and trap card zones only. You start with 4. Both players start with 4 cards in their hand. Both players can draw on their first turn. You get multiple normal summons in a turn, so it's no longer you normal summon once and that's it, and then you can special summon as many times as you want. Now it's more like if you can normal summon as many times as you want, there's no limitations, which is pretty cool. It's very different. Now every deck has the possibility to be faster or as fast as they want to be because there's no limitations on the normal summon, which makes sense because I mean nowadays everybody special summons so much anyway, so what does it matter if you get multiple normal summons, I guess. And the Rush Duel cards have much weaker effects as of right now, so it really doesn't matter that much. But yeah, so you get multiple normal summons per turn, and then the final rule is if you have less than 5 cards in your hand during your draw phase, you get to draw until you have 5. So if you have 0 cards in your hand during your draw phase, you get to draw 5 brand new cards, which is really insane. It seems really busted on paper, but I'm gonna get into detail as to why I think Rush Duels is pretty balanced out. Actually, it's not that bad. So first of all, I guess I'll just talk about the good. I'll talk about each individual rule and why I think it's fair, or why I think other people would think it's unfair or not as fun or whatever. Anyway, so let's start with the first rule, which is 3 zones, 3 monster zones and 3 spell and trap card zones. So I think this is a very fair rule in my opinion. I think that this balances that out quite a lot. So I've actually tested it. I've done Rush Duels already with Robbie, so we built our own like kind of Rush decks and stuff like that. Obviously there's no Rush Duel cards out yet, but on Dueling Book we just kind of like picked different cards. We made our own little rules and stuff like that, and kind of like built our own Rush Duel deck with, you know, using the rules of Rush Duels, and we tried not to use too many broken cards, just very simple basic effects and stuff like that, or basic cards and stuff like that. So we actually tried out Rush Duels multiple times and we had a lot of fun with it, and it really wasn't that bad. I honestly think that the fact that it has the 3 zones, 3 spell and trap card zones, 3 monster zones, really balances it out, because yes, you can get multiple normal summons per turn and you could ideally OTK really fast, but your opponent can do the same thing. So it's kind of balanced out, and the fact that you can't have 5 monsters means that you can't really OTK as fast as you want. And also the fact that you can't have 5 back row is really good. That means the games don't, I won't say they don't last as long, because they do. Ironically, even though these are called Rush Duels, they actually aren't that fast. Well, they are fast. Like the turns themselves are fast. Like you just summon a bunch of monsters, activate your spells, and do whatever you got to do. But the duels still take just as long as a normal duel, because there's still strategy involved. There's still you know, if you can't get over a certain monster, you're kind of screwed there, or you know, you have defensive spell and trap cards or stuff like that. Like the duels can be fast, but so can real duels in real life. They could be really fast too. So I honestly don't think that the 3 monster zones is really a bad thing at all. I think that's one of the things that really balances it out, because that means you can't have 5 back row to like stall out for a really long time, and you can't summon 5 monsters and just OTK. The 3 monster zones, the 3 zones really make it a lot more fair and balanced in my opinion. And like I said, I've tested it out myself, so I actually have experience to know that. I'm not just judging on paper. I've actually have experience with Rush Duels, with 2 different Rush decks that I've built, and Robbie as well. So speaking from experience, it's actually very balanced out. Now the next rule, 4 cards in hand. So this just took a little bit to get used to, because I'm used to starting with 5 cards, but this is also balanced out because you have less cards in your hand. At the start of your turn you have 4, and then you draw 1, so you really only have 5. If you get multiple normal summons, let's say you have 4 level 4 level 4 or lower monsters, you can normal summon them all on the field. Great, now you use 3 of your monsters already on the field from your hand, and now you only have 2 cards that might be a spell trap or a high leveled monster. So, you know, the high leveled monster you have to tribute for. I'll get into that later a little bit more. But yeah, you pretty much used up most of your hand right there, and now you only have 2 cards that might be back row that you can use right there or not. It really depends. So it's like, okay, you go, but now your opponent gets to go and they get to do the exact same thing. You know, they have 4 cards in their hand and they get to summon as much as they want. So it's balanced out because both players get to do it. It's not specific and they can do it all the time. It's not like during a specific moment in the duel that you get to do this. But yeah, so having 4 cards in your hand balances it out because you use most of your resources in turn 1 because, you know, you only have 5 cards in your hand by your draw phase. So it is what it is, and that's fine. So yeah, that's you start with 4 cards in hand and then you draw. Both players get to draw cards. So that's fair. That's not really that big of a deal. It's not that huge of a difference. It's actually very balanced out along with the 3 monster zones. It's very smooth. All right, next up we have draw until you have 5 cards. Now this is this and the normal summon rule is what really gets people, I think, upset. That's what I've noticed people comment the most on is probably they don't think it's fair that you get to draw until you have 5 cards every turn. At first, I didn't like this idea either when I watched episode 1. Well, I was neutral about it. I can't say I did or didn't like it, but then once episode 2 and 3 came along, you know, I liked it. I liked the Rush Duel concept. I like the fact that you get to draw until you have 5 cards. I like it opens up a lot of possibilities that you didn't have before, because, you know, back then, you know, you draw 1 card to make the difference. Sometimes you'll draw it, sometimes you won't. Sometimes that card won't make that huge of a difference. It is what it is. But the fact that you get to draw until you have 5 cards gives you a bigger opportunity to turn the duel around, and both players get to do it. So like I said, it's fair. It's not like one specific person gets to do it. You can do this at any time as long as you have less than 5 cards in your hand. And you get to, it's not like you get to draw 5 new cards every turn. That's only if you have 0 cards in your hand that you get to do that. But let's say, for example, you have a hand full of, let's say you have a handful of high-leveled monsters in your hand that you can't really summon. Well, you can't do anything about that. Maybe you have 1 card you set in your back row, and that's fine. Now you have 4 cards in your hand. Next turn you only get to draw 1. That's it. So like it's dependent. If you're able to dump your whole hand in that turn, then yes, next turn you would get to draw until you have 5, and you would get a brand new hand. But that's if you're able to dump your whole hand. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you might brick. Sometimes you might not be able to set or activate the cards that you need, or you have too many high-leveled monsters and you can't do anything, and then next turn you don't get to turn it around. You don't get to just draw 5 brand new cards along with the cards you have already. No, that's not how it works. It's if you're in a pinch, if you have less than a few cards, and usually by that point, because you get to swarm your whole field, and so does your opponent. If your opponent is going second on their turn and they draw really well, they get to wipe out your whole field, and now you're going to be very glad that you get to draw 5 brand new cards if you dump your whole hand. You're going to be very glad, trust me, it comes in handy. And it's also fair because just because you draw 5 brand new cards, that doesn't mean you're guaranteed to draw what you need. You're not. And they showed this in the actual show itself, which I really respect Sevens for doing that, because they showed that there are some moments where you just don't draw what you need. And that's really cool. So, and I did that. You know, when I was testing it out with Robbie, I noticed that I would draw 4 new cards or 5 new cards, and I still didn't draw the cards that I needed, and I maybe had to stall a little bit longer, or I would lose right there. Just because you draw 5 new cards, that doesn't mean you draw 5 new amazing cards. Now, obviously, in competitive, that's different. You know, if you draw 5 new cards in competitive duels, that's a completely different story, because, you know, you run 3 copies of most cards or 2 copies of most cards, and it's more consistent. So drawing 5 cards makes a huge difference, but the competitive format is going to be different from Rush Duel format, I'm pretty sure. So it's going to be a completely different power level entirely. So ignore the competitive side for now, because we don't even know how the competitive side of Rush Duels is going to really form. But I think the Rush Duel format with the rules, that's its own separate thing apart from the regular TCG, you know, tournament rules and stuff like that. and OCG rules. But yeah, so I don't know. I just feel like it's very balanced out. I love it. I had a lot of fun with it because it just means that great. Now I can draw 4 new cards and possibly turn this around. It's not guaranteed that because I draw these 4 cards now I won. No. In fact, sometimes I brick. Sometimes I draw nothing but spells and traps. Maybe those I'll use to stall for a while. Sometimes you're looking for that one card you need to draw and you just can't draw it. Like me and Robbie were dueling and he was trying to draw his ace monster and it was near the bottom of the deck. He kept drawing every single turn a couple times, but he just couldn't do anything. And at one point he locked up his whole field. He used all 6 of his zones and he kept, he could only draw 1 card per turn at that point because he had enough cards in his hand. So it's not like he kept drawing multiple cards each turn to get there. He got there a little faster, but not by much, because once you use up your whole field, you can't do anything else, and those cards just stay in your hand until you can do something with it. So I don't know. It's not bad. It's really not. It's actually a lot of fun. It really creates a more realistic possibility of turning the duel around. Because in real, like I've always, loved I've always kind of loved how, you rely on that one card that you need to kind of turn the whole duel around. And I think that's really cool, but I think it's also kind of unrealistic. It does happen, trust me. I've dueled in real life, and that one card does turn it around because you're waiting for that one card to finish off your combo that you have planned to win. So obviously it can work out. But I also think it's just more realistic that if you draw, multiple new cards, that you'll have a higher possibility of coming up with a cool combo. I think it's more realistic. I think it creates a lot of possibilities, a lot more possibilities, for different type of counter attacks and whatnot. So I think it's really cool. The last rule I want to address is the multiple normal summons, which I kind of already addressed a little bit here and there. But like I said, I just think this is completely fair. Everything's fast nowadays anyway. Everything special summons a lot anyway. So it feels like, what's the point of having the normal summon rule that you can only normal summon once per turn? Because nowadays you just special summon everything. There's no restrictions to special summoning in the TCG, and I know Rush Duels are going to be different, but I'm using that as a comparison. That nowadays, what does most people don't even use their normal summon, because what's the point? Everything special summons. Like, it's such a special summoning is such a broken, I guess, mechanic in the game, because there's no restrictions to it. Really, there's none. Yeah, there's some cards that say you can't special summon for that turn or whatever, like certain draw cards, but honestly, it's kind of a busted mechanic. Like the fact that you only get 1 normal summon, but you get an infinite amount of special summons. I think that's just completely ridiculous. I mean, no wonder turns last like 20 to 30 minutes just for 1 turn and 1 like large combo. Like, it's ridiculous. Honestly, it's very ridiculous. It's not fair. I think there should definitely, even in the TCG, be a limit to how many times you can special summon. They won't do that though, because why would they? And that's why they created Rush Duels, a more simple format for kids to understand. You can normal summon it as many times as you want. Anyone can swarm the field, but the amount of zones and the amount of cards in your hands kind of balance it out. But also, what makes normal summoning fair is that the tribute summons still matter. So if you have 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons in your hand, this isn't like the original Yu-Gi-Oh! In Season 1 where you could just summon a bunch of monsters. It's still regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Rules. So yeah, you get multiple normal summons, but if you have a hand of 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons and no low-leveled monsters, you can't summon your Blue Eyes. Well, in Rush Duels, you can only have 1 Blue Eyes now because it's a legend card, but that's besides the point. The point is, if you have multiple high-leveled monsters, you can't summon it, period. Unless it has a special summon effect, then you probably could. But if it's just a monster that you just need to tribute summon for, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do at all. You're stuck. You're stuck right there. You can't do anything. So yeah, so what if you get multiple normal summons? If you can't summon those high-leveled monsters because you didn't draw enough low-leveled monsters to tribute for them, then you're screwed. So I think that completely balances out. I love the fact that they still kept the tribute summoning rule in there, because that's what really balances out the multiple normal summons along with the 3 zones, because you can only have 3 monsters on the field. So you summon your 3 low-leveled monsters and you're tributing 2 of them to summon one of your high-leveled ones. Now you already used 4 cards in your hand. You only have 1 card left. So it's like, it might be a back row or it might be a spell card you can or can't use at the time. So now you used up most of your hand. You better hope that you could survive that next turn from your opponent, Hopefully they won't get a really busted hand and overcome it. But most of the time it doesn't really happen that way. You know, these duels last long. I've tried the Rush Duels out and it really wasn't that rushed. It really wasn't. It was a fast duel because we could normal summon as many times as we want per turns, and the turns go by a lot faster because there's less combo plays. But the length of the duel wasn't that short because there's still a lot of strategy involved. There's still a lot of different situations involved that kind of limit you from finishing the duel fast. It is what it is. But yeah, so that's pretty much my thought on Rush Duels. I think it's fun. I think it's really fun, and I think it's pretty balanced out for the most part. We'll see how things develop once we get more powerful Rush Duel cards. Once the Rush Duel cards come out in general, and then once we see the show progress more, and then obviously as the show progresses more, we'll see more stronger effects. You know, there'll definitely be more swarming special summon effects at that point. Hopefully we'll see extra deck mechanics and stuff like that, and then things will get a little bit more, somewhat more complicated, but hopefully not too much, because then that kind of counteracts the whole point of Rush Duels. But we'll see. But overall, I like Rush Duels. I think it's good. I think it's a fun concept. I think they did a pretty good job with the rules and stuff like that. I think it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend you guys try building out your own Rush decks. Obviously the cards aren't out in the TCG, but you know, go on Dueling Book, go on Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, build a Rush deck. You know, just build. You know, just add a bunch of monsters. You know, if you want, make rules to make it a little bit more tricky. That's what me and Robbie did. We made rules where we limit the amount of copies we can have in a deck. We limit the amount of cards from a specific art tech we can have. We create our own ace monster and kind of change its effect to make it our own. Like we created our own fun limitations to make it more balanced and stuff like that. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I highly recommend you guys try it. If you guys don't like it, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to like it. But in my opinion, I think Rush Duels is fun, and I think it's pretty balanced out, honestly. I think it seems unfair on paper, but once you try it out, you realize that it's really not. The limited zones, the multiple normal summons, but you still have to tribute summon. Drawing until you have 5 is not that broken. In fact, you're gonna be very grateful that you can draw until you have 5, because you're gonna your hand is gonna run out really fast, and you're not gonna have much by the end of your turn. You know, if you get a good hand and you just dump your whole hand, you're not gonna have much, and you're gonna be grateful that you get those 5 cards to draw. Trust me. But yeah, anyway guys, that's my opinion on Rush Duels. Tell me what you guys think about Rush Duels. If you guys aren't that into it, that's perfectly fine. If you guys are into it, tell me why. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree with what I said? I'm perfectly open to hearing everyone's thoughts on it. This is a new thing. Not everyone's gonna love it, and that's okay. Anyway, God bless you guys. Thank you guys for everything. See you guys in the next video. Gotcha!